I'm going to be in the shot. But let's start off with Texas. Do you have your brush ready? Select some kind of brushes, and then maybe a nice thick, or depending, we could experiment. Yeah, that's a nice thickness. So over here.
You want black?
Over here.
Red?
We could start off with black maybe. Oh no. Okay, so we're looking at Oklahoma versus Texas, and there's only really two choices here. You either have to cut off Goemon from Oklahoma, or you have to put Amarillo in Oklahoma. And I would suggest that we even go down, we kind of follow this line from Santa Fe over this highway through Dallas, cut Dallas in half. And now this state, this is all Oklahoma. Now Oklahoma is a big, important state. It's got Oklahoma City and it's got northern Dallas. This is an important state. People want to go to Oklahoma. I mean, it's huge. And now you look at Santa Fe and you look at New Mexico, and this Pecos River, Oklahoma, okay, all right. So that's Oklahoma, and then you look at this Pecos River, and you're just going to give all of that to New Mexico, up here to that border. Yeah, and so now New Mexico is this big, important state on the Mexican border. This is all desert, by the way. It's all the same theme, basically. So now New Mexico, it's not that boring square state. Now it's this big, it's got character to it. It's got this little foot on it now, and it follows the Rio Grande and everything. It's beautiful. And so what's left of Texas is San Antonio. I mean, it's still a huge state. Don't get me wrong. Texas is still huge, but it's a more reasonable state, And I think this is really the center of Texas is now Austin, which I think that's really what Texas is about. It's all about Austin these days. So I'm really happy with what we're doing with Texas here. And so moving on from Texas, we of course have this problem with Louisiana, right? And the way that we solve this problem with Louisiana is we're going to take this border up here and we're going to drag it across through Mississippi. And so that Louisiana and Mississippi, it's all going to be one state here. And it makes sense, right? It's the Gulf state. It's got New Orleans, it's got Mobile, it's got Jackson. This is a state that there's a lot of stuff going on. You're going to want to visit the state. You want to go to, you combine Louisiana, Mississippi, you get Louisissippi or something like that. We'll work on the name. Maybe Missiana. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's called. No, that's Alabama. Keep Alabama out of this.
Oh, yes.
But this looks like an aesthetic state. Look, the foot is no longer like off to the side, but it's like in the center. Like, this is one of the most aesthetic states in the Union now. We really like this state. And you can call it whatever you want it. You can call it Louisissippi. But that's going to be a state. And now you'll notice up here, this has created a great opportunity for us. Okay, so if you look at Arkansas, which is kind of a small state.
Louisissippi, by the way.
Louisissippi, that's fine. We'll make a committee, But you've got Arkansas, and then you've got Tennessee, and then you've got this rump state of Mississippi. And so then you always had that part of Missouri that's like hanging down. We're going to eliminate that.
That's the boot heel.
So we're gonna cut off the boot heel, and we're gonna just draw straight across to this river in Tennessee. I guess it's the Tennessee River, perhaps. All the way across to the Tennessee River, and then we're gonna drag down following the border of the former Mississippi. And now this is a great state. It has Memphis, which nobody wants to go to Memphis, but that's fine. Nobody has to go there, but it's there. And Little Rock, where also nobody wants to live in Little Rock, but they're both there in this new state, which is basically going to be Greater Arkansas. It's going to be Arkansas. We don't worry about that little part there. But this is a beautiful state. And notice how aesthetic these states are. They're big. They're not too tall. They're not too short. They're just well-rounded states. And so we're gonna table that. We've sort of dealt with South Central. This is the South Central of the country. This is where really, if you're driving from the East Coast to the West Coast, you're gonna go through this area of the country. But we're very pleased with ourselves. But we're gonna kind of move up after we're done labeling Louisiana and just Arkansas. It's just big old Arkansas. But we're gonna move up to the northwest of the country, and we're gonna kind of scroll up a little bit. I don't know if you can scroll up, but anyway, it's Washington and Oregon, and we're gonna deal with that. So there's a little bar over here. You can scroll up. Yeah. So we're looking at this. And we're basically have 2 points of reference. We have this border between California and Nevada, and then we have this highway in Washington. So we're going to draw down from the highway, and then we reach the end of that, we're going to draw straight down to the California-Nevada border. And then this whole state here on the west coast, call it Cascadia, you call it Washington, you call it whatever you want to call it. But this coastal state makes a lot of sense. It's got great sights to see. It's got Crater Lake. It's got Vancouver and Portland and Seattle.
Are we following the border?
Yeah, we're going to just follow that border. That's fine. Follow that border and draw it all the way up to the Canadians over there. We might conquer part of Canada. That's not really going to be in that map, but we could conquer that island and go all the way up. But this is going to be, a nice state here. And it's going to be very coastal, very cool. Cascadia, right? And then we're going to look at all this stuff, and that's going to be part of this really big state, because no one lives here. There's nothing over here. There's no reason to ever be in Wyoming or Montana or Idaho or any of those parts. These are things you just go through. So this is going to be one big state, but we're going to fix the border down here so that everything's going to line up. So we're going to fix it. So we're going to take this line down here, and we're going to go straight up so that we no longer have this. It's just one straight line up.
Here?
So right here, starting between Oklahoma and New Mexico, we're going to go straight up between these two sort of parallels. Go straight up through Rapid City all the way to the Canadian border. And now that makes sense, right? And so now we have this line here, and this line here is going to drag all the way across to this border. And now this is just one big state you call Greater Montana, Greater Idaho, whichever you're feeling. This is a big state. Nobody lives there. It's fine. Maybe give them a few more electoral votes or to compensate whatever loss they feel. Big M for Big Montana. And that would be one of the biggest states in the union. Nothing is there, and it would be pretty impressive. It would have, I believe in this area is Yellowstone between, oh, that's a beautiful M. Between, like in this little corner, right in the center of the state is Yellowstone, So you have some cool things going on in that state. Now what we're working on over here between Nevada and California is we're going to take this border and we're going to drag it down through the middle of Fresno down toward these islands. So right where this border is, we're going to just drag that line down through Fresno and down to the bottom, to the coast. And so this is going to remain California. So California is now really centered on the San Francisco Bay. That's what California is all about, the California we know and love. Now, what you have down here with Los Angeles and San Diego, that's actually just going to be part of Nevada. So we're going to take the border here and just draw it all the way up Nevada. And so this big, really tall state, it now has Las Vegas, it has San Diego, and it has Los Angeles. And so that is, we could even conquer part of Mexico and make that part of it as well if we wanted to, but we're not going to invade foreign countries just quite yet. You know, once the country's the way it should be, then we'll be prepared to invade Mexico. But this is looking like a question mark, yeah, question mark. But this is a big state now. It's a big, meaty state, and you're really going to like visiting this state. So one of the things you'll notice now is we can draw a line straight up this border between Colorado and Utah, and we can basically draw it all the way up to that border so that Utah now has it's a functional state now. And also Colorado has Cheyenne, which makes sense because Cheyenne is more in Colorado than is in Wyoming, right? So these two states make sense. You can leave Utah and Arizona, two separate states, so you extend the border. You know, just you draw over the existing border. You know, it's fine as it is, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. So we've covered the West. We've officially fixed the West. It makes sense culturally. It makes sense economically, politically. Everyone's happy with this. Everyone's satisfied. We've solved all the problems. Now, something you're going to notice over here is that no one lives in North and South Dakota. And also nobody lives in Minnesota. And I'm blaming these are the states that no one lives on my road trip. And so I didn't get to visit these states because of that. I'm very sad. And so because of that, if I consolidate states, I'll actually be able to visit these states a lot more easily. So one of the things we're going to do is we're actually going to make North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota all one big state. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take this border between Iowa and Minnesota, we're just going to drag it all the way across. So Sioux Falls and everything. And so now this is going to be one state. It's going to be called Minnesota or DeSoto or whatever you think is better. But this is going to be a nice big state, a big, beautiful state. You're going to want to go to this state. It's got Bismarck, Minneapolis. Who doesn't love Minneapolis this time of year? It's a, beautiful city. And so that's going to be a nice big state up there. Now, you have this issue, Nebraska and Kansas. And Nebraska and Kansas, nobody lives there. Nothing's there. No one invited me to come see them in Nebraska and Kansas. So what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate Nebraska and Kansas into one big state. So we're going to take the existing border between Missouri and Kansas, Iowa and Nebraska, and we're just going to draw that up, and we're going to make this one big state, and it's going to be called either, wait a second, maybe edit undo just a little bit, because we want to follow the existing border. I think the existing border is fine. Just that aesthetic along the river and such, we'll keep that. We're just consolidating Nebraska and Kansas into one super state, either called Nebraska or Nebransas, one of the two. But it's going to be a big state. Not a lot of people live there, mostly in like Linden and Topeka, Salina, Wichita, Dodge City, whatever. But that's a state. And we've solved so many problems in the country. Just people are joyous. They're laughing in the streets because everything is good in the world. Now, we're going to table this for a second because we've solved so many problems. So we're going to go down to Florida. We're going to scroll all the way down to Florida. We're going to figure out what's going on here. We have a problem with Alabama. Alabama is not being granted the coast that it deserves. And same thing with Georgia. We'll notice that Georgia recently turned into a blue state, and we're gonna kind of help the Republicans out in Georgia. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna give them the reddest part of the country, which is northern Florida. You don't know this, but Jacksonville, if you look at big cities, if you look at the list of most populous cities in America, the first Republican one you'll find is Jacksonville. So we're gonna give this whole thing they call, the Panhandle. We're going to give all of this to Alabama, and we're going to give it to Georgia. And the first way we're going to do that is, you see this little river here, we're just going to draw a line down, and that now is going to be, and we're not going to draw it too high because there's other things going on here. But for Georgia, between, let's say, Daytona Beach, and we'll kind of draw across here, and this now, that's all going to be part of Georgia. Now, before we go too far up there, we're going to really think about what we're doing because things are getting complicated, people are getting upset. But we're definitely separating that North Florida. That's no longer part of South Florida. South Florida can be Democrat or whatever they want to be. But we're going to steal that part from them. And we're thinking now about what we're going to do, because now we're getting into populous states. So before, we weren't really messing with, it's like, okay, Montana still doesn't have a lot of people living there. California was a huge state, so we weren't really messing with the population equilibrium. But now we're really messing around with things. We have to be very careful. We have to be conscious of what we're doing. So we have to take some consideration. So we're going to table that. We're going to let that be. We're going to say that's an easy decision, right? We're going to go skip over, let's say, up to the northeast. And in the northeast, we have more depopulated states.
Battery a couple minutes ago.
That's okay. Just keep going till it dies, So we're going up here, and we're noticing that Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, nobody lives in these states. Nobody lives here. And also, nobody lives in upstate New York. So what we're going to do to solve this is we're going to make this big sort of super state. And I think what we're going to need to do is we're going to make all those states the same. And I'm figuring out, should I give some of New York to Pennsylvania? Should I do that? We're probably going to have to split Pennsylvania. I mean, this is messy. But one of the first things we're going to do, Providence is no longer a state. It's basically a city. And we're going to split up, say, look at Massachusetts. We've got Massachusetts, Providence, and Connecticut. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line up from Providence straight up through Massachusetts. And so that little rump state is going to be like Massachusetts sort of proper. So Providence and Boston, basically. And so this little kind of peninsular Boston area, that's going to be a state. And then Western Massachusetts and Connecticut will be consolidated. So these are two states basically now. You've got like your Connecticut state, which is it's got like Springfield and Western Mass. And then you've got Massachusetts, Eastern Massachusetts. So these are small little states, but a lot of people live there. There's history there, right? And then as far as all of this stuff from Maine all the way, let's say it sort of cuts across. So, it sort of cuts across. How much do we want to give it to them? I say what we'll do is we'll go to Rochester. We'll go all the way over to Rochester. And then as we hit Rochester, we're going to go straight down for a little bit. Not too far, not below Pennsylvania. We're just going to go straight down. And so what's going to happen now is where this line is, we're going to extend this line across between Pennsylvania and New York all the way to that Connecticut state. Okay? So this is now a big state. Nobody lives there. It's a nice big state. It's beautiful. Go there to see the leaves change in the fall or something like that. Now what we have is this Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York sort of thing. We have this whole Bay Area state. And, you could do a lot of things with this. There's a lot of people who live in this area. So, it's hard to decide exactly what you're going to do with this state. But I'm thinking essentially that we're basically going to take this from this border that we've drawn here in the middle, we're going to drag that down through D.C., the Chesapeake Bay, and we're going to end it there at D.C. So this whole thing from Long Island and all this area here, I don't know if you call it the Bay Area or the Atlantic, you could call it Atlantis. Well, you're going to keep you're not going to divide Long Island from that, but, something, well... Okay, yeah. This is a state now. A lot of people live there. It's New York, New Jersey. You can use the eraser tool as well up here. The eraser tool will allow you to fix some of these things. But anyway, it's a huge state. Billions of people live there. I mean, it's incredibly large. But it's a legitimate state. Now, one thing we could do is to try to lessen the population, we could split it. So sort of along Trenton, we could sort of split from Harrisburg to Trenton. We could split it. And so this would be New York, essentially, and this would be, you'd call this like Annapolis. I don't know what you'd call this state. But these, and you could split it up more. You could keep splitting things, but I think the Chesapeake Bay should have this integrity. I think this is correct. Steal that from Virginia. That's all correct. And then this is basically correct. Maybe you split that in half again, but we're going to leave that now. That'll be criticized by committee later. But we've solved the Northeast. The Northeast, New England is solved once and for all, and we're very happy with that. So one of the issues we have here is we've got some problems with West Virginia. West Virginia is not a real state. Nobody lives there. And so we've got to figure out a way to split this stuff up. And what I'm going to suggest, I'm trying to be culturally sensitive here. But what we're going to suggest, we're going to take some of these highways and byways. And this red line from the highway here, we're going to draw all the way around to Charleston and then up this on the border of Cleveland here. Yep, all of this up to Cleveland. That is basically going to be this new Midwestern state. What we're going to call it, maybe we call it West Virginia, maybe we call it Pennsylvania. I don't know what we call it. But that's going to be a state right there for now. I understand a lot of people are upset. I know it was so peaceful out in the West. Now it's getting violent in the East. But we're just gonna temporarily have this be a state. It's gonna be the JD state or whatever that.
John Denver.
Okay, all right. It's gonna be something. We'll work on it. We probably also have to invade Canada, to be honest. Here's the issue. Wisconsin, fine. Wisconsin is going to take this little part. Wisconsin is going to take this part of Michigan, this little thing, and it's going to all be one state. There's not much you need to do with Wisconsin. Wisconsin is already great. We love Wisconsin. We love Kenosha. We love Milwaukee. Beautiful parts of the country. That's going to be one state. Isn't that a wonderful state, folks? We love that state. But Michigan is going to have to invade Canada. I'm sorry, Canada, but we are invading. And basically I'd say from Kingston, all this part of Canada following this kind of river here, all of that is going to Michigan. So Michigan is becoming this nice big state on the Great Lakes. I'm sorry, Toronto, you're part of Michigan. It's when you think of Michigan, don't think of Ann Arbor, don't think of Lansing, don't think of Detroit, think of Toronto. Toronto is now part of Michigan, which I think is a great thing. It's a wonderful intercultural sort of experiment that we're doing there. It's going to be everyone's going to want to go there. Best economy in the world, you know. So now we basically have the sort of middle part of the country. This is where things get tough. And here's where we're going to focus. We're going to focus on Kentucky and Tennessee. And here's what we hate about Kentucky and Tennessee is they're too long, they're too wide. And so what we need to do to them is we need to consolidate them into one state and split them down the middle. Or we don't even have to split them down the middle. But we're going to draw up from our border here, from this kind of Arkansas up to the border. And then we're going to follow this around and we're going to hit the border with that new state we created there. Follow that, and then what we're going to do is kind of follow the border down to Tennessee. Yep, from there down to Tennessee, and then to Georgia. We're going to connect that to Georgia. And so this is looking good. This is looking really good right now. I'm really happy with what's happening. And I'm just thinking, I'm getting really confused with Alabama and with Georgia. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to cut across. We're going to cut across. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna reinforce the border between Alabama and Georgia. We're gonna reinforce that border. So Alabama's complete. They now have Tallahassee. Congratulations to Alabama. You now have a beautiful coastline, beautiful beaches, and we're very proud of you. And then Georgia, we're going to keep this border between South Carolina and Georgia. So Georgia's complete. Congratulations. You got Jacksonville, beautiful city for Georgia. Okay, and then what we have left here is the rump state of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to split North Carolina in half. So basically from this red line over here, we're just going to drag that over all the way to the coast. And so you have basically Virginia and Carolina. Those are the two states. And I think people are just going to have to learn to deal with it. You know, maybe you don't like the fact that Raleigh and Richmond are in the same state. Maybe you don't like the fact that North Carolina and South Carolina are now just Carolina. But that's the way we're going to deal with that for the moment. Now, Indiana and Ohio, I don't feel that it's worth separating these states. I think there's not a ton of people. There's a lot of people who live in Indianapolis and Columbus, but we're going to make this one big, beautiful state. So eliminate the border between there and just pull that border up, and bam. You've got the beautiful state of Indiana, or, you know, Indioa. One of the two. It's going to be something. It's going to be pretty cool. Oh my God. Omo. Whatever. It's a big, beautiful state.
OMD.
OMD. Okay.
Do you like them?
I could do with that. Now, what we really have here, now this is tough. Here's the deal. Chicago does not belong with the rest of Illinois. And so I think what we're going to have to do is this state from Bloomington, we're going to, from the border to Bloomington, and then from Bloomington over to this river, and we just draw it up, and we just, and that can be Illinois. That could be Illinois over this, just this little rump state. A lot of people live in Chicago. They'll be Democrats. They'll be happy. And then, you know, this is tough. We obviously want Illinois to be part of Missouri. We're uniting people at last. St. Louis is finally in the middle of a state. And I guess Iowa's this little state over there. I kind of feel bad for Iowa all by itself. One of the smallest states by population now in the country. But it's tough. It's really tough. What do you do with those people in Iowa? I mean, do you join them to the Missouri superstate? Do you leave them be their own thing? I think we hold a plebiscite. I think we allow them to vote. And 51% of people in Iowa, they said we want to be an independent state. So we let them do it. If you want to break off, congratulations, Iowa. You remained exactly the same. You're the only state in the entire union that remained exactly the same. Very unique. Des Moines. I mean, this is historic. Fireworks are going off. We love Iowa. Is this not the perfect have you ever seen, and let's count the states. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, one of the most perfect numbers, by the way, because it's 8 times 4, very close to a month, okay, 8 times 4, which in other terms is 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, and 16 times 2 is 32. So it's 2 to the power of 5. It's a beautiful number. We love the number 32. And 32 stars in the flag. We might finish up the border with Arizona over here. That's really the only thing I would add. But otherwise, this is one of the best maps that's ever been drawn. I've been working on this for probably 40 years now, collectively. And we're very happy with it. By the way, just to let you know, this border up here goes all the way to Alaska. You don't know that. But we're going to conquer the part of Canada that separates it. We're going to make Alaska part of the contiguous United States. We might just conquer all of Canada. It's fine. We could just extend a lot of things up there. It would be fun. Well, definitely, okay, Maine is getting Fredericton. I don't care what the Canadians say. Maine is getting Fredericton. We're obvious. I mean, that's a big, beautiful state. Everyone's going to love Maine now. It's going to be the Maine state, the best state in the Union. And as we go down here, I also want to point out that if you look at Key West, there's a 90-mile bridge that connects Miami to Key West. We need to extend that down into the Caribbean so I can drive to Puerto Rico on my road trip. So that's pretty much the map. We're going to conquer Mexico. We're going to fix the drugs and the crime, and we're going to make Mexico big and beautiful. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm fully on board with it. We're going to eliminate the border with Canada so we can do the road trip up there. So I'm really happy about this. I know you guys are too. You're excited to be a part of this new map. Everyone agrees. There's no disagreement. I think to reflect on this, the toughest ones for me was like Western Pennsylvania That was really tough. And then combining Indiana and Iowa, that was a tough decision. That was probably the two toughest ones. And I don't know about the Georgia superstate. We might have to like split that up in the middle here from the border over here with Carolina. We might have to drag a line across, or I don't know what that represents. Oh, you're just segregating Atlanta from the rest of the state. Okay. All right, that's, we do a little gerrymandering. I'm more about the aesthetic blocks of states, but, we'll see what happens. People will make their choices in life, and we're going to be evolving. I really do. I think splitting up sort of northern Georgia from the south, I think that might be the way to, because it's a large state. I don't want to have these super, yeah, I think maybe something like that's appropriate. That might just get, now you have 33, which is also a beautiful number, 33. And in fact, you could erase this border between North Georgia. I'm just saying, you could erase that border between, oh geez, all right. Yeah, but you could make that, we'll see about it, we'll decide. I mean, that's fine for now. I think Alabama, you leave it as it. We don't want to get too micromanaging here. I think as it is, it's probably fine. We could shift borders over here any which way, but I'm pretty happy with this. It's one of the things that this is the best video I've ever put on this channel. It's about maps, an important topic close to my heart. This is going to affect your life. If you don't spend 5 hours studying this map, what are you even doing? Like, are you even smart? Do you even have a brain? Are you a human being? If you don't love this map and obsess over it your whole life and memorize it and be able to draw it for anyone at any time, who cares about having friends or a relationship with God? None of that matters. What you need is to argue about this map, downvote the video. But after you downvote, go to twitter.com @JOKKULL. Follow me, mention me, we'll start a conversation. I'll visit you in one of these 33 states, which are the only ones I recognize now. And we're going to rewrite the Constitution together. We're going to talk about important political issues like the state of Bra. And we're gonna move forward. It's going to be beautiful. If after you dislike, reverse your decision, like the video, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.